Hi, hello everyone. It's great to see you all again this week. Today, we're going to open a new topic that is about leadership. In the work psychology, we always mention leader and subordinate. Leaders are always taking control over the subordinate. And so we have to work with our leader all the time. If we face to a bad leader and we will become our disaster, we will suffer a lot. And so this is a very interesting topic to see how good and how bad the leader would be in order to influence the performance of the employees. I hope you enjoy this class. If you have any question, just let me know. Thank you. This is the aims of today's lecture. First, we would like to understand and define the concept of leadership. And then we're going to develop an understanding of the major theory of leadership. And finally, we will compare and contrast different approaches to leadership in terms of the theoretical assumption as well as the practical implication. After the lecture, you should be able to answer the following question. First, is leadership an inherent characteristic owned by some but not others? Are they inborn? Can leadership be trained? And where do followers fit into different types of the leadership style? Overall speaking, there are two major approaches to leadership. The first one is the traditional approach, such as trait theories. People are looking for some characteristic that will make certain people as the leaders. Behavior approach, it refers to some behavior that will shape that individual to become the leader. Contingency approach is to look into in certain situation and what context and situation and which types of the leadership style is more preferable. And another approach is the modern approach, such as transformational leadership, and to what extent that how the leader should do in order to enable the subordinates. And leader-member exchange, LMX, is talking about the relationship between the supervisor and subordinate. And later on, we will have a more discussion in detail. By definition, leadership refers to the ability of an individual to influence, motivate, and enable others to contribute towards the effectiveness and success of the organization. In short, the key feature is that it's someone who can influence others, who can motivate others, and also to shape the opportunity to enable others to make a contribution to the team as well as to the organization. This is what we call leadership. Indeed, we can see that leadership is very important because leaders are everywhere. The most typical one is the political leaders. In different countries, in different parties, we can see the political leaders. Besides that, in many different sports teams, the basketball teams, the football team, and we will also see the team leaders, sports team leaders. At work, we also have our work leader. Education, we also have our principal, our department head, division head, they are also the leaders. In organization, indeed, we can see that leaders are also in a multi-level phenomenon. The top level could be the CEOs, the top management teams, and in the middle and also the bottom level will be the line manager, the supervisor. They are all classifying it and named as leader. Leadership has a closer relationship with psychology. Leaders' behaviors can always be described and explained by psychological theories. There are two major theories that we always use to explain leadership behavior. The first one is social learning theory. By having the experience or the observation of leaders' behavior, people can learn and imitate the behavior of the leaders. If the leaders is good to you and you learn it, and so you copy and imitate the behavior, and so you also treat others well. If the leader is bad, and then For example, like if they are using a more abusive supervision, they abuse the employees, you learn it, you observe it, and probably you may also imitate that bad behavior towards your employees. Or in another rank, perhaps you observe how bad your leaders behave and you learn it, you know that this is not good, and you do not do it to your employees. And so this is about social learning theory. Another one is the social exchange theory. Social exchange theories is telling us that if you're good to your employee, and then the employee will do something good to the organization as well as the team as the payback. In contrast, if the supervisor treats the employee badly, the employee will also pay back by reducing the performance, by doing some bad things to the team as well as to the organization. So this is what we call the social exchange theory. So you may have a question that, what makes a good leader? You can recall and think about your experience or observation of the leadership. You may have your part-time job with your boss and working with your sports team leaders, or a teachers may also classify it as leaders to you. So you can think about what make them a good leader and what make them a bad leader. The first approach for the leadership theory is the trait theory of leadership. Trait theories focus on the characteristics and attributes of the leaders. You can recall and think about this individual, what makes him or her to become a good leader or to become a bad leader. So what characteristic that they have. And then we're trying to examine what separates these people from others. One of the example like Obama, and we notice that this individual, this person is very charming and also very intelligent, very smart. And so all these are the characteristic of this individual to make him to become a quite successful leader in the United States. Or the founder of the Apple company, Steve Jobs. And you can also consider that, and many people say that, well, he's very directive and, well, also very charming. And in such case, and also shape him to become a successful IT company leader. And so it's not only limited to the political or the company leader. You can also think about maybe you're in the sports team, the football team, or the tennis team, and you can think about the leader, what characteristic that those leaders have. The trait approach of the leadership can be also named as the great man approach, because this theory persists that great leaders are born, not made. And traits are relatively stable inborn factors in affecting individuals to become the great leaders. Therefore, you can see that a lot of the earlier research on leadership will focusing on great man approaches, and they are looking for some common characteristic to shape a person to become a good leader. Indeed, a lot of the research has been confirmed that people, if they got certain characteristics such as intelligence, smarts, and for good appearance, very conscientious, etc., will make the person to become a successful leader. And but they will consider that all these characteristics are inborn. In one of the very interesting and earlier trait approach of research, it found that only height, slightly those who are slightly taller and intelligent people, seems to distinguish leaders from the followers. And well, it seems that people who are taller will have a high chance to become successful leaders. Indeed, in some of the very interesting research also found that if two candidates compete in the United States election, president election, always the taller one will win in the US president elections. So this is also one of the very interesting research findings. It shows us that people who are taller, maybe more charming, and so have a high chance to win the election. And this is really very interesting piece of work and telling us that trace approaches of the leadership is also one of the approaches that we can look into, especially when we classify the inborn factors in shaping the individuals to become a successful leader. The trait approach later on is not only talking about some outlook and appearance things. Instead, the research began to focus on more individual attributes. As the trait theory developed, they are not only focusing on the height and also the body weight, etc. Instead, they are really looking into some personality, their needs, motivation, cognitive ability, as well as the values. There are some of the evidence of the leader's traits, the factors that differentiate the leaders from the non-leaders, including such as intelligence. The research found that for those who have a high intelligent people and more likely to become a successful leader as they compare to those non-leaders. Especially this relationship is consistently and quite significant in differentiating leaders from non-leaders. Besides that, people who have a high level of the needs of the power, dominance, and so would likely to become a leader. For someone who have a higher self-confidence and for more energetic, more knowledge of the task are also helping this individual to become a leader, to differentiating them from the non-leader employees. When we talk about the trait approach of the leadership, usually we always use Big Five personality as the predictor in predicting different types of the leadership styles. Trait approach of the leadership become unpopular towards the end of the 20th century because one of the issues is that it is the lack of consistency between findings and studies. Because we don't know what characteristic and attributes would really 100% or largely can help to shape a person to become a successful leader. That's why later on, the scholars are focusing on the big five personality factor will give the view of a framework and start to talk about if the employee, if the supervisor consists of these five elements, and so whether will make them to differentiate from the non-leaders employees. Sometimes we call big five personality as ocean. They are the same. O refers to openness, C refers to conscientiousness, E is extroversion, A is agreeableness, and N is neuroticism. So these five major elements, we call it as Big Five personality model. Because we have already discussed the Big Five model in the individual differences section, and so we are not going to elaborate it in details here. We just have a quick recap. Openness to experience refers to someone who is imaginative, autonomous, and also non-conforming, and very open-minded. Conscientious, someone who's reliable and also can be dependent on them. Extroversion, someone who is very outgoing, sociable, and also experience some positive affect. Agreeableness, they care and trusting and also compliant and gentle to others. Neuroticism is saying that their emotion is not very stable and it's very easy to experience negative affects such as anxiety, insecurity, etc. And please recall and think about what factors of this Big Five model do you think is the most important for the leadership? What is the effects of personality as the predictor of leadership? According to the meta-analysis in year 2002, which summarized 73 studies which measured how the Big Five personality traits were affecting the leaderships. According to the research result, and they found that the extroversion, openness, and the conscientiousness were positively related to the emergence of the leaders. It seems that people who are very outgoing and for a very high level of the openness, open-minded, and be reliable, conscientious will become the leaders. Besides that, the research also confirmed that extroversion and openness particularly affecting the effectiveness of the leadership. And so this is a very interesting research. And if you're interested, you can have a look and to see how the Big Five personality were affecting the leadership.